So, as we approach the 2022 MLS regular season, which, by the way, at the time of this recording, we only got 4 more days before the regular season began. And, I've talked about before where this offseason is the shortest offseason in league history, and it really has lived up to that tag. I mean, it almost felt like it was just yesterday when NYCFC was able to lift MLS Cup after winning against the Portland Timbers in a PK shootout. And all of a sudden, we are now getting ready the beginning of a new season. And to continue to do video prepping for the beginning of the new season, I'm going to start to do kind of a fun video before we get to the serious slash controversial video of the year, which is the dreaded prediction when we predict where each team is going to finish in the standings. We're going to take a look at why each MLS team can and cannot win MLS Cup, and today I'll look at why each MLS team cannot win MLS Cup this season. And then tomorrow, I'll take a look at why each MLS team can win MLS Cup. And believe me, I do have to say that, in terms of making today's video and also tomorrow video, I'm going to be a little bit nitpicky in terms of some team, because there are some teams that legitimately could win MLS Cup, and then there are some teams that you probably know that they cannot win MLS Cup. And in this video, obviously those teams that I've talked about that obviously have no shot of winning MLS Cup, it's pretty easy to say. But for teams that are legit MLS Cup contender, it can get tough to try to come up with a reason, and that's why I said I'm being a little bit nitpicky in terms of talking about those specific teams. But with that being said, let us actually begin, and we start off actually going with the Western Conference first, because I've been going with the Eastern Conference in my last two videos, talk about the emotion index and the hot seat index. So I thought we'll do the West first, and once again go alphabetical order. And we'll start off with Austin FC and why they can't win MLS Cup. Well, it's because their defense still suck. I mean, unless they can have some defensive reinforcement, I mean, I don't think this is an MLS Cup contender. And also, not to mention the fact that this is only their second year. Like, this is not Atlanta United we're talking about, where they were able to win their MLS Cup in their second year, or even close to being like LAFC when they were able to reach the conference final in their second year. I mean, this is a very typical expansion kind of team where, the first year it was a lot of growing pains, and then the second year it's gonna get better, but not at a level where it could be a playoff contender. The Colorado Rapids, why they can't win MLS Cup? Well, it's because they do not have a number 9 or a number 10 to speak of. I mean, this team, while it's been working as a team that has been built as a hard-working team and have one of the best head coach in the league in Robin Fraser, the lack of number 9 and also the lack of number 10 is probably the reason why this team can't win an MLS Cup. Like, you definitely need some different maker in that position, and the Rapids, unfortunately, do not have any of them right now. FC Dallas, why can't they win MLS Cup? Again, same reason as their interstate rival Austin FC. Their defense is still a big issue, and also, this attack, well, it's definitely a much upgraded one. Yeah, I think they're kind of more focused on playoffs rather than actually thinking about winning MLS Cup. The Houston Dynamo, why can't they win MLS Cup? Well, it's because they're rebuilding. I mean, and this is going to be the same thing whenever I talk about teams that are rebuilding. I mean, and I know that might sound like an easy thing to pick on, but it's true. I mean, the Dynamo is rebuilding. They have a lot of placeholder that hopefully at least make them competitive in MLS, but in reality, they are rebuilding. So when you're a rebuilding team, it's hard to win MLS Cup. The LA Galaxy, why can't they win MLS Cup? Well, the easy way to say it is their defense still suck. But the other thing I could say that they can't win MLS Cup is because, it's still a Chicharito or bust kind of team, and when you rely on only one player to be your guy that could be a goal scorer, you're not going to go very far. And I know Galaxy fans will say, well, they brought in Douglas Costa, which, again, I don't know. I know I might seems like very harsh on Douglas Costa, because you've seen my previous video. I talked about how I really don't rate Costa, and especially the way that the last couple of years in his career with him, suffering from numerous injury and also had a lot of trouble off the field. Yeah, I can see that could be the case once again, and hence I even kind of make a comparison, the fact that he could maybe end up the same route when Giovanni Dos Santos came into this team. LAFC, why can't they win MLS Cup? Well, again, it's the defense is a big question, but it's also depth too. Like, this team, when you look at the depth chart, they don't really have a lot of depth besides the best 11 that they have. I mean, I even said before, when they do put their best 11, then yeah, they have a chance to win MLS Cup. But obviously, every single team throughout the year will have to go through a bit of an injury problem, and for LAFC, they kind of cannot afford that. And especially, there are also still guys that are trying to recover from the last injury crisis that they had from last season. Minnesota. Why can't the Loons win MLS Cup? Well, because they're a Minnesota team. And, if you know about Minnesota team, constant disappointment, especially in the playoffs, is basically a given with this team. But, in all seriousness, the big reason why I don't think the Loons are going to win it is because, I still have doubts about this attack. I still have doubts whether or not if this team have enough goal scoring talent. Yes, I know they brought back Luis Amarilla, and I think he's definitely going to be a spark of that. But we'll see. We'll see if he can, of course, do so. And also, not to mention Adrian Hunou, who, from what I heard, he did not had a good preseason. And there was at one point he was actually being benched by Adrian Heath because of how bad he played in the preseason. So that's a little bit concerned for a guy that I thought would turn his season around. But the other thing that I think is the reason why maybe the Loons can't win MLS Cup is just the whole Reynoso stuff, and that I don't know. Like I hope that Reynoso can go back to his 2019 form when he was literally like a Nico Ladero level in the playoffs, and probably even more because he actually had the most assists in a playoffs out of any player in playoffs history. But I don't know if he's going to reach that level of game, especially of a disappointing year he had last season. Nashville, why can't they win MLS Cup? Well, there's still a problem with the attack, and especially the number nine position. There's a question whether CJ Sapon can repeat what he did last year, which most likely isn't going to happen because we've seen this before when Sapon had a big season and then the very next year he kind of fall off, and then that of course lies on the hands of Ake Loba. We'll see whether he will live up to that DP tag, and also whether or not if Hani Mukhtar is just going to carry this team again. I mean, anytime when you only have like one play that can score the goal for you heading into the playoffs, yeah, it's not really a recipe to trying to win MLS Cup. Like, you can't just have one single player carry you through, because most time are not a team. The team that always win MLS Cup always have multiple weapons, and unfortunately for Nashville, they really only have like one weapon, and that is Hani Mukhtar. I mean, not saying that that's not a bad weapon. I mean, he is definitely one of the best in my opinion in the top three, number 10 in the league, but he's not going to be a guy that I think can single-handedly carry this Nashville team to an MLS Cup title. The Portland Timbers, why can't they win MLS Cup? Well, if Sebastian Blanco goes down injured again, then yeah, that could be a problem from them. I mean, last season, yes, I know Blanco, of course, played in MLS Cup, but you can clearly see he was playing injured. Like, I get that he wants to play MLS Cup because it's the biggest game of his career, and I will never doubt any player that even though they have to play through pain, they of course will definitely be motivated to play in the biggest game possible. But that being said, you can clearly see he was playing hurt, and he didn't really had a lot of effect in that game because he's not 100% healthy. Heck, I think he wasn't even 75% healthy the way that he was playing. So yeah, that could be one of the big reason, and also the goalkeeping situation that this Timbers team has could be something that we'll be watching out for, and we'll see whether or not if they can, of course, figure it out. I mean, I know they said that Bingham is going to be the goalkeeper, which, as a Quakes fan, I know I hate. I mean, I gotta be brutally honest. I want him to fail because of what he did to the Quakes, but we'll see whether or not if that, of course, work out. RSL, why can't they win MLS Cup? Because they're not gonna repeat what they did last year. I mean, again, I'm not going to say that playoff run that they had was complete fluke. I mean, I know some people say that, but I think that run that they had was a typical Cinderella run. They rely on some luck throughout that playoff run, and they played some good defense throughout the playoff run, and also they kind of just got that momentum heading into the playoffs. Like, how many times we've seen before where teams, when they get that momentum heading into the playoffs, they tends to be one of the hardest team to beat, and that's what RSL do. Though again, I don't think that's going to happen this year, because you cannot play like that the way that they did in the playoffs in the regular season, and not to mention they don't really have a talented squad to really, I think, even maybe make the playoffs. Like, unless if they start adding some more pieces, and also potentially replacing Albert Ruchnek that they lost to Seattle, I just don't think this is a team that is going to have that miracle kind of playoff run like they did last season. The San Jose Earthquakes. Why can't they win MLS Cup? They're the Quakes. I mean, it's simple as that. I mean, the long story is basically, well, Mateus Almeida and how he's I feel that he is doing every way to try to sabotage this team, and that I've mentioned it many times before. He's the biggest liability of this team, and he's going to do something that it's going to frustrate a lot of fan base, and that it's also clear that he also have a very sour relationship between the GM and also, well, not just the GM but the front office, and anytime when that happens, he could potentially be out of the door. And just because a head coach get out of the door in the middle of the season, I know I've seen before where sometimes when a team change their head coach, things of course can get better. It's not always the case. And again, for the Quakes, again, Almeida, he's the big reason why I think this team not only can't win MLS Cup, but the fact that they probably might not even make it to the playoffs. But as I said in the short story, it's the Quakes. I mean, disappointment is always expected for this team, and any hopes that this team has, they're going to find ways to destroy that. The Seattle Sounders, why can't they win MLS Cup? And this is where we start to get some to territory where I'm really starting to nitpick, because the Sounders, they are a team that a lot of people picked to win MLS Cup, and I don't blame those people, because they have probably the most talented squad to make an MLS Cup run. But probably why they can't make it is that, last season, I think their season was kind of derailed because they had a bad form heading into the playoffs, and a lot of that has to do with the injuries that they have. I mean, I think people don't realize that the Sounders team isn't really as deep as some people might think. Like, a lot of people thought that this team is going to win MLS Cup because when they put their good starting 11, then yeah, that of course is the case. But when you see a team that pretty much starts some of the depth pieces, yeah, it's not the same Sounders team as we see with a team that can be very dangerous. But that being said, I could be completely proven wrong, because I will also say that there's a counter argument with that, being that there's times when they did have some of their depth player playing in those games, they actually look decent. So I guess maybe the other reason why I'll say they can't win MLS Cup is that Brian Spritz's team tends to kind of struggle whenever it comes to the big games. Yes, I know he won 2 MLS Cup, but you got to keep in mind, the first one that they won, yeah, they had 0 shots on goal in the entire game, and that they probably would have not won that game if Stefan Fry didn't make an incredible ball save on Josie outdoor header. And then also they kind of gone with the RSL way, play to penalty and win in a penalty kick shell, which is why last year when they play against RSL and lost in that way, boy, I can understand why a lot of MLS fan was trolling the Sounders, because they got a sweet taste of karma with the way that they lost that game against RSL. Sporting KC, why can't they win MLS Cup? Well, the simple way to say it is that they always choke in the playoffs. But the real reason why they can't win MLS Cup, they don't have Alan Pulido. I mean, he is the difference maker of this team, and I still truly believe that he is going to be a guy that really is going to take this team to the next level, winning MLS Cup. The problem is they don't have him, and even though they tried to sign a bit of a placeholder for him, I still think this team really need Alan Pulido if they want to reach MLS Cup. But again, the simple reason is that they always find ways to break their fans' heart in the playoffs every single season. Vancouver, why can't they win MLS Cup? Well, as good as the vibe that Vanni Sartini team had last season, there's the question, can he do it throughout the entire season? And it's difficult to try to do that throughout the entire season, because throughout the entire season you're going to go through some tough patches, and that's going to be also one thing I'm going to watch out for Vanni Sartini team, because I know he brought in a lot of good energy to the team, and his team really feeds off of his energy. But what happens when the Whitecaps do start to struggle? Because during that time when he took over, that team was on fire, and that team had no point you could say that they really face some adversity. Well, maybe I will say that there were some games that they were facing adversity, but the adversity I'm talking about is that what happened if they start going a bad run and go on a losing form. We'll see how that's going to be. And I just fear that maybe that's not going to go well, and maybe that's kind of something that is one of the big reasons why they won't win MLS Cup. But also the fact that when I look at this team, I still feel like this team is still a level below of being an MLS Cup contender. I mean, their attack is decent, but the midfield and defense, it's still kind of like below a level of being an MLS Cup contender. And not to mention, they also lost Maxime Crepeau. I mean, that was really the piece. If they had any shot of winning MLS Cup, he has to be there, and unfortunately they lost him to LAFC, and they're gonna hope that Thomas Hasel, of course, will step up. And as you know, I'm a huge believer in Thomas Hasel. I always rated him, but I've said before, I feel like they might have rushed him to be the starting goalkeeper for this team. Now let's move to the Eastern Conference, and we'll start with Atlanta United of why they can't win MLS Cup. Well, if Joseph Martinez went down with an injury again, this team looked like could be screwed again going for the attack. I mean, again, I know they're thinking of signing Dom Dwyer as his backup, but I just feel like this is like something similar to what they did with Kubo Torres and also did with Adam John, signing these kind of outcast MLS player and hope for the best, and it just doesn't work out. But also the other reason why I think this team can't win MLS Cup is that Thiago Mondo turns out to be like Pity Martinez, turns out to be a huge flop after going to Atlanta with that hefty transfer fee. So yeah, that's our couple of reasons why Atlanta can't win MLS Cup. Charlotte FC, why can't they win MLS Cup? Well, because they're screwed. Okay, that I know that sounds a little bit too easy, and you knew it was coming with the way that I just cannot get that meme out of my head of Miguel Angel Ramirez openly said that his team is screwed in an interview. Which, by the way, I've heard a lot of people say that the translation to that from Spanish to English wasn't really mean that we are screwed. It's actually something explicit, but the translator basically decided to kind of type that they are screwed just to keep it PG and stuff like that. But no, in all seriousness, the real reason why Charlotte can't win MLS Cup is because there's only been one other MLS team that come into expansion year to win MLS Cup, and that was the Chicago Fire in 1998. And there's also a reason why they might be the only team for a long time to be the only MLS team to win an MLS Cup in their expansion year, because it's just almost impossible to win it in your first year. Like, there's so much things that throw into you that makes it tough in your first year. You're building a new roster. You don't know how the chemistry is going to look. And then in the case of Charlotte FC, they just don't have enough guys. Like, their depth is so thin that they go through an injury crisis, they could be in serious trouble. And not to mention, the whole we are screwed situation, mainly due to the attack, and especially in the winger position, where they just don't have any winger whatsoever on this team. Chicago, why can't they win MLS Cup? Well, they can't be consistent, and that somehow how their star players doesn't meet expectation, and also their defense decide to continue to commit boneheaded play like we've seen in the past couple of years. I mean, I've said it before. This is probably the most frustrating team to watch, not only if you're a Chicago Fire fan, but also as a neutral too, because you just don't know what version of a Fire team would get. There could be days where you get a Fire team that looked like an MLS Cup contender, and then could be a case where the very next week they could look like a wooden spoon contender. So, hopefully that will change under a new head coach in Israel Henriksen, and also with some of the new signings that they had. But until then, I mean, again, I have to stay with the narrative of the fact that, this team will not win MLS Cup because they're too inconsistent. And when you're inconsistent, you're not going to go very far in the playoffs. FC Cincinnati, why can't they win MLS Cup? Well, it's easy, because they're FC Cincinnati. They're the 3-time wooden spoon champion. But, the real reason why they can't win MLS Cup is they're rebuilding. I mean, again, this is another rebuilding team. And anytime when you're rebuilding your roster and trying to maybe start to think about turning over your roster, which surprisingly the Cincinnati team hasn't really done that much in this offseason, But this is a team that's more interest in terms of not winning a wooden spoon than actually being an MLS Cup contender. And I even said before, it's going to take a couple of years before this team even get a chance to maybe make it to the playoffs. But now let's talk about their interstate rival, Columbus. Why can't they win MLS Cup? Well, if they suffer another injury crisis, then yeah, this team could potentially not win MLS Cup, and especially if their backline decide to be hot garbage again, no, they're not winning MLS Cup. And that if Caleb Porter kind of get his ego best out of him, that's also another reason why they're probably not going to win MLS Cup. DC United. Why can't they win MLS Cup? Because Hernan Losada does not have the players to run his system. I mean, this offseason, you got to feel for Losada, the fact that he's basically asking and pretty much begging the front office to show him the money so he can sign his players, and all they have show for this offseason is getting Michael Estrada from Toluca, which, he's a decent player, but from what I heard in Liga MX, a lot of Liga MX fans, and especially Toluca fans, said that he's not good whatsoever, and DC might have made a big mistake in terms of signing him on the DP contract. And not to mention, we've seen it before when we have seen Liga MX striker comes to MLS and have struggled in this league, and we'll see whether that's going to be the same case again. But really, the main reason is that Hernan Losada just simply do not have the players to run his system, and also his naivety toward changing the system, and really doesn't have like a plan B whenever if the high octane kind of style that he likes to run with his team turns out to be a huge bust and fall apart. Inter Miami. Why can't they win MLS Cup? Again, rebuild. They're a team that is rebuilding right now. And, I will say that this Miami team, I can definitely see in a couple of years they could be an MLS Cup contender. And there are a couple of reasons why I say this. Because, one, they have Chris Henderson. And, we know Chris Henderson, he is in my mind one, if not the best GM in the league. I mean, there's a reason why he built those Sounders team to be a regular playoff or regularly make it to playoffs and regularly be an MLS Cup contender, and I feel like he's doing the same thing with Inter Miami right now. But again, they've just gone through a complete nuclear kind of. They just pretty much completely dropped the nuke last season, completely destroyed their roster, and pretty much almost like starting from scratch again, and almost like they're back in the expansion year once again, building a new roster, and hope that this time, of course, will work out. But I will say this, like I said before, I think this team could be an MLS Cup contender, just not this year, especially with the way that they're rebuilding. Montreal, why can't they win MLS Cup? Well, Montreal might have their typical Montreal type of year where they fall apart near the latter part of the season when they got off to a good start. But also, I think maybe Montreal might fall in the same trap as Columbus of last season, where maybe they're not as deep as what we thought that they have. I mean, they have some good pieces, and that in theory they're too deep in every position. But again, we'll see whether or not if that depth, of course, is as good as what we advertise, and especially going forward on the attack. I mean, I still have some concern going forward on the attack, especially in that striker position, where I know that position they're also too deep with Mason Toye and Romel Kyoto. But the problem is, Mason Toye has had problems staying healthy, and Romel Kyoto is the same case. So when you have two strikers that have regularly missed time, yeah, even though you're too deep in that position, when you have both of your star player go down, that could be tough to trying to overcome. New England, why can't they win MLS Cup? Well, I guess, you can point out to the 2017 U.S. Men's National World Cup qualifying team of their failure of reaching the World Cup. And again, it seems like they're trying to recreate that with some of the signings that they had. And not to mention, they have the head coach that were one of the mastermind of their downfall of not making the World Cup. That could be a reason why they won't fail. They will fail to make it to MLS Cup. But I think the other reason is that, losing Matt Turner this summer, that's going to be really tough. But also losing Adam Buksa potentially this summer could be very tough, because they just also lost one of their most lethal weapon going forward on the attack. So, yeah, for the Refs, those are kind of a couple of reasons. But, in the general reason why the Refs won't win MLS Cup, they're the Refs. I mean, they're known as the Buffalo Bills of MLS for a reason, where they have reached so many MLS Cup, and yet somehow they're still cursed right now. 26 years strong, or 27 years strong now, that they have yet to. They're still one of, I think, 3 teams that yet to win MLS Cup, despite coming into the league as an original 10 team in 1996. NYCFC, why can't they win MLS Cup? Well, it's because it's hard to repeat. Like, there's only been 3 teams in MLS history to ever repeat as champion. Last time that happened was the LA Galaxy, and I just feel like when you look at this NYCFC team, yes, they have some talent, and I would give them definitely higher chances to repeat compared to Columbus last season, and that most likely this team won't have MLS Cup hangover. But the reason why that I still think that they probably won't repeat is because they're going to eventually lose Tati Castellanos, and they are, seems like they're still heavily rely on him in terms of scoring goals, and unless if they don't have another their good goals scored, which I know they do. I mean, they have some really talented young player that can definitely replace Tati Castellanos, but that's just if that is the case. When I actually see it in action, then yeah, I think there's a chance that they're not going to repeat. But really, the big argument is it's almost impossible to repeat, especially with the way that the league and how every single year when you win an MLS Cup, you always see like the team getting dismantled because they're selling off pieces, or the fact that we also see some parity, at least in the Eastern Conference, where, you know, I know in the West there seems to be no parity because it's always either Seattle or Portland making MLS Cup, but the East, there's a lot of parity. Like the last couple of teams that representing the East out of MLS Cup, I mean, it's not just Toronto FC anymore, and not like what we saw in 2017 when that, of course, is the case. We've seen different teams that made it to MLS Cup, so that's good to see certainly in terms of the parity part of MLS, but also that is not good news for NYCFC when you know somebody is probably going to take that Eastern Conference crown for this upcoming season. The New York Red Bulls, why can't they win MLS Cup? Because that's so Metro. I mean, you also knew that was coming whenever I talked about the Red Bulls and their failure in the playoffs, and that those 3 words will definitely forever live in the infamy of this team, unless if they finally win an MLS Cup. But in reality, to dive deep in why they can't win MLS Cup, they just simply don't have the talent to do so. I mean, there's a lot of question going forward on the attack, where they still don't have a true number 9 on this team that can score the goals for it. And yeah, I mean, that's really kind of the main reason why they can't win MLS Cup, besides the fact that you know they're going to suffer another heartbreak in the playoffs. Orlando City, why can't they win MLS Cup? Well, I guess you can say that, you know, again, this is another MLS Cup contender, and it's hard to basically come up with reasons when there's an MLS Cup contender to potentially have a chance to win MLS Cup. But I guess maybe competition, because again, something tells me that the East this season, there's going to be a couple of teams that definitely is going to gun for that crown. But I also think the other reason why Orlando won't win MLS Cup is that they might suffer the same problem that they had in 2019, which is, you know, they let the emotion get the best of them. And, you know, last year when they played against Nashville, that didn't happen. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that Nashville was simply the better team in that game. So, yeah, you know, for them, if they are going to head to the playoffs, that's one thing that they need to know, that if they're the favorites, they got to control their emotion, because if they let their emotion get in them, they could be like what happened in 2019. That was one of the big costs of why they failed to go deeper into the playoffs. The Philadelphia Union, why can't they win MLS Cup? Again, another team that it's hard to say why they can't win it, because this team is a legit MLS Cup contender. I mean, I guess maybe another COVID outbreak that could broke this team, but I guess maybe the other reason is the goal scoring part of this team. I mean, I know this year they of course got Michael Arud, and they hope that he's going to be the guy that's going to be the leading goal scorer, but I'm interested to see what happened when playoff time is, because last season that was something that, you know, surprisingly that did not really cause them in terms of the playoff run. Like, for a team that only scored 3 goals, it's kind of miraculous the fact that they were able to make it to the conference final despite having so much trouble in terms of goal scoring. But I feel like this year they're not going to get that same luck, in that I think they got to figure that out, especially in the playoffs, as they want to win MLS Cup. And then finally, Toronto FC, why they can't win MLS Cup? Well, it's because, you know, that defense that they have, even signing Sebastian Sato, I have a feeling could still struggle, and also the fact that they don't have a lot of depth too. Like getting Lorenzo Insigne might be a good signing, and definitely will get butts in the seat at BMO Field, but he's not going to be a guy that will fix the big issue that this TFC team still had coming into this season, is that they just have no depth. Like they have no depth whatsoever. If they suffer an injury crisis like they did last season, this team could potentially finish the same position that they had last year, and that's when they do have some of those talented players that they have on their roster or signed from the offseason. But yeah, either way, that is pretty much it. Looking at every single team and why they can't win MLS Cup this season. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video? Again, it's a kind of a fun video to make, though I did take it a little bit more serious than some of my other video, talk about each MLS team in terms of something similar to that. But tomorrow, the good news is I get to do the same kind of format, but this time talk about why each team can win MLS Cup. And believe me, that's going to be probably even harder than the one I did here, because I know at least here with every single team, we know at least well, not at least, but 27 team is not going to win MLS Cup on this board. Like can only be one team out of this board that can win MLS Cup in 2022. So it can be easy to kind of eliminate some of these teams that can't win it. But when it comes to like the other way around, where there's only like one team can win it, and I have to make a legitimate reason why one of these 28 team is going to be that team that win MLS Cup, that could be a little bit harder. So stay tuned for that video when I make that one tomorrow. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys see your like, smash the subscribe button. Again, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video. And yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.